Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Judy and you are watching Running So and So. And I'm going to start by saying again, Happy New Year. And also thank you so much to everyone who has recently liked, commented and recently subscribed to my channel. I appreciate every single one of you taking the time to watch my channel. If you are new and you've not yet subscribed, there's a link down here and a reminder up there. Yes, you wouldn't believe how long it's taken me to get that thing to work. Anyhow, this is the as promised review of the Tilde shirt dress from Atelier Jupe Patterns. And I'm also going to review the fabric that I used. Now then, let's review this pattern. The Tilde shirt dress from Atelier Jupe. Here it is. It is the most stunning shirt dress. And I will come to the details of the pattern in a minute. But I want to start with the fabric. And you can see it behind me here. It is the Estelle Viscose Satin, part of the Fabric Godmother Christmas drop for 2023. And as you can see in the dress behind me, there's lots of the pattern. It looks like it is Christmas baubles. And as you can see in here, all I can see are beautiful Christmas baubles intertwined with the ribbon. You can see what I think is the top of a bauble just here. It is on like a black background, but the black actually is showing more blue than green in the black. And the baubles do at times appear to be upside down, and sometimes they're the right way around. So I had to decide which way I wanted them. So looking at this bit here, looking at this one here, I've got the top of the bauble here, and I've got two smaller baubles just here, both with the tops of their baubles there. So as you can see, I think the whole dress looks absolutely stunning, and the fabric really lends itself to this kind of dress. It needs to be simple because the fabric in itself is incredibly fussy. Now, I'm just going to read to you what Fabric Godmothers say about the fabric. The thing I want to pull out straight away is the weight of this fabric, and it is crucial that you at times look at the weight of the fabric because that is going to affect how easy it is to handle, especially when it comes to cutting out your garment. This fabric is 170 grams per square metre. Now, I have checked the weight of a lot of the other Fabric Godmother fabrics in the viscose, and they are weighing somewhere between 125, 140 and then up to 170 grams per square metre. Now, the fabric it's a typical viscose. It's a viscose. It's 50-50 viscose and Eco-Vero. Is viscose and Eco-Vero are sustainably sourced fabrics. Eco-Vero is more sustainably sourced because it's made from renewable wood sources. But as you can see, it is incredibly heavy. What you can see is it is very, very fluid, and you'll be able to see that here on the dress. I've just turned the camera around so that you can see the fluidity in the skirt on the dress. And because the dress has got a fairly straight line, it's lovely that you've got an element of fluidity in the skirt. The fabric is divine. It is soft. As I've just shown you, it has that divine fluidity and softness and movement that you would expect from a quality viscose such as is produced by the Fabric Godmother. There is a but. It is heavy. Viscose is heavy anyway. Because it is fluid, it will drape, it will pull, and it will pull back on itself. I don't know how many of you have put it on your cutting table, put a little bit up, and you've got too much over the edge, and the whole lot falls on the floor. It happens, folks. Now, when I came to cut this out, if you remember back to my videos during Vlogmas, so initially I'd folded the fabric over, and I pinned it, selvage to selvage, and I pinned the fold that I'd ironed absolutely flat. But even then, I felt the fabric weight pulling against where I was working, no matter how hard I worked with fabric weights. So I was thinking, what could I use in the future if I have a nice viscose again? And I've solved it, folks. This is decorator's masking tape. You can put it on your fabric, you can tape it to your cutting table, it won't cause any damage. It is amazing stuff. Now decorator's tape's horrendous, it tears really easily, so it's not going to cause you any problems on your garments. I went and got that from B&M today. Other hardware stores are available. There's loads of hardware stores everywhere. All you need to do is to go into your hardware stores to the decorating section. A reel of this will last you forever, but it might take away a bit of the blood, sweat and tears of cutting out a viscose successfully. Because, and I am going to labour the point again, cutting so that your body pieces or any piece that has to be parallel with the grain is essential. And it is even more essential if you've got a shirtwaist shirt dress with an element of tiny bit of flare within the skirt. You need to get that straight grain parallel to the edge, and doing that when you have got a fluid fabric is so difficult. This is going to be revolutionary. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tape the top to the top end of my cutting table. I'm going to fold back the bottom and I'm going to tape that down so that it can't go back on itself and it doesn't pull itself down. Believe me, it doesn't matter how long you've been sewing, you will continue to find these little tips. And I hope that that little tip helps you and saves you a bit of blood, sweat and tears. Especially when you are measuring from your straight grain to your selvage to make certain that they are parallel. You can even tape down your straight grain line. You can use this to pull it to make certain you've got both those lines exactly right. Okay, waffle for the fabric, over and done with. Computer can go away now. Let's get on with this beautiful, beautiful pattern. So the Tilde shirt dress, it is by, I'm going to put a little picture of it, this side I think, to run through at the same time. Now, the Tilde shirt dress runs from sizes, UK sizes 6 to 24. I'm going to hold my notes up in front of me. And you go from bust 1, and these are the finished measurements. So I'm starting the smallest and then I will repeat the largest. So your bust 100 centimeters to 144, waist 94 to 138, hips 115 to 162. It gives you a sleeve length of 51.7 for all sizes. Now I went off the finished measurements simply because I am losing weight. Always make certain you check your measurements against the pattern. I checked the measurements for the pattern against the finished measurements, and they're suggesting that it goes from a size 6, which is a bust of 84, actual measurements, to 128, waist of 68 to 112, and hips 92 to 132, and I fell between, when I looked at the finished measurements, I was falling more towards the size 6 than I was to the size 8. It also gives you extremely good guidelines on where to measure, measuring the bust horizontally at the fullest part of your bust, just below your armpits. So if you're a tall stuck, you know exactly where you're going to. Now, it also gives you a top tip. For this shirt dress, your bust size is the most important one. Hence the reason I had to go for the bust, because my bust is smaller. Knowing that you can, with these dresses, it's very easy to grade out from the bust out to the hips if you wanted to grade out from maybe a 6 to a 10 at the hips, or a 6 to an 8 at the hips, or a 14 to an 18 at the hips. It's very easy to do that. You just need to make certain you pick, when you've got your pattern, you pick a notch, because a notch will match a notch on another pattern piece, and you can use that to grade out from, making certain you've got exactly the same angle of grading line all the way through, and then you can drop down. Now, let's have a little look. Fabric layout. They give you some extremely good fabric layout plans. Now, I was a bit naughty because the amount of fabric that you need to make this dress for a size 6 with a stand collar, which is what I've done, a stand-up collar, or or a shirt collar is 260. When I was looking at making this dress, when I bought the fabric before Christmas, I was looking at making a size 12. And Fabric Godmother and a lot of places only sell fabric in 50 centimetre increments. Now, it is nice to buy what the pattern says, but don't be frightened to either round down or round up. If you round up, you are going to get some wastage, but if you wanted to do something like making a matching handbag or a matching scarf, then you've got the excess to do it. If you want to be tight, like me, and buy less fabric, I always round down. And I knew that this was going to be tight. So when I lay out, I always lay out completely, checking my measurements and pinning as if I'm going to cut, and I'm sliding up all the pieces and I'm moving them around slightly to ensure that I get all the pieces out. So I would have got the size 12 for a stand-up collar out of 2.5 meters. It was tight, it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but it's up to you whether you give it a go or not. Once you get to a size 14, you need 3 meters 20. So you could probably get a size 14 out of 3 meters. Now, one of the things I suggest to people that they could do is to take an area of carpet and chalk out the fabric on the fold. So you'd chalk out a piece, fold, selve edges, and you'd have the length of the fabric 3 meters. And you'd have to then, fabric folded in half would be 70 centimeters. So you'd have 70, 3 meters. And on that, on your carpet, you would lay out your pattern pieces as per the fabric lay. The reason for doing that is it's a way of easily checking whether you'd have enough fabric. It depends whether you want to buy your fabric and pattern at the same time, or whether you've seen a fabric and you think, you've got the pattern and you've seen a fabric and you think, how much do I need? Now, I did do this once because I bought a pattern to make an outfit for a wedding, and it said for the shift dress I needed something like 2.5 yards, and I'm like, no way do I need 2.5 yards. I literally needed the length for me, which was literally just maybe 1.5 yards, 1 meter 25, 1 meter 30. So I chalked it out on the carpet. Kids were like, what are you doing, mother? And if had David been alive, he'd have absolutely had a hissy fit. But it worked, and I didn't have any fabric wastage. So there you go, another tip. So moving on, the instructions. Now, with Atelier Jupe patterns, you have to bear in mind that they give you an explicit table that tells you the seam allowances at each specific point. I'm hoping this is going to come out. Let me just have a little look. Yeah, there we go. The seam allowances for each pattern piece change depending on where they are. So going back to read it, for example, your front pieces are 1.5 centimetres around, which means it's all around. Then it needs 1 centimetre at the neckline and 2.5 centimetres at the hem. The button placket, again, 1 centimetre at the neckline, 1.5 all around, 2.5 at the hem. The collar is 1 centimetre all the way around. The sleeve, 1.5 all around. They are very careful and very explicit, so from that mark I would always give Atelier Jupe sort of 100 out of 100, 100% for the way they mark their seam allowances. But it does mean you can't just go for the pattern, you need to double check. And the sewing instructions are as explicit as ever. Now, I am going to make one little comment about the pattern and the pattern markings, and that is when I did the dress and the darts. The dart here, there is, just here, a very, very small dart. And there's a dart like this on both sides of the dress. Now this dart didn't fold easily. So what I did was I re-tacked it, remarked it and I tacked it in place and tried the dress on. So my advice to you is, when you do these darts, you do have to put them in fairly quickly, but you will need to check them. So perhaps tacking them in, pinning the rest of the dress together if necessary, tacking it together, and just checking the lay of these darts, because initially when I did them, they didn't lay flat perfectly. I'm going to move on to the sleeves. Please excuse the beeping in the background. That's my air fryer telling me that dinner is ready. We move on to the sleeves. Now, I have said several times, I've promised you a sleeve tutorial, and I practiced on these and the sleeve just fell in here, and I will show you, I do promise, how I will show you it in, how I put them in. And I tried a different way for this and it did literally just fall into place. You can see that it's fallen properly because here we've got the fabric falling beautifully along the sleeves here. The cuffs themselves went on beautifully as well. Let's wait for that to pop in. And inside here, because I did not want to stitch in the ditch here, I did choose to slip stitch them down with a little hand stitch. You just move to the back. I've got the camera in quite a good position here. The back here, oh, you can see I've caught it with the iron there. Can you see? I should have ironed that before I put it in. That's an iron catch there. But we've got a very nicely shaped yoke at the back. Oops. And I'm going to move to the front now, where I'm just going to show you the top. The collar went on beautifully as well. Now I've got very sharply turned points here, and here at the neckline I have hand stitched and slip stitched down. I don't really want to zoom in a bit here. You can see there. Can you see there where I have slip stitched it down to give a better, or in my opinion, a more secure and stable finish. And again, because I haven't understitched or stitched in the ditch, I don't have a line of stitching there. Similarly, down the front here, you can see here where I've hand stitched the button placket down to the line of stitching. So there we go. Here is the dress all finished. And the belt, because I've got the sateen fabric, the belt itself does slip down. So I'll just give it a slightly tighter knot to try and cinch it in a little bit. Oh, it's worth saying to you here that the dress is literally straight down. Can you see there? It literally is. There's no shaping at the waist on the dress. It literally is a shirt dress. It starts here, it's shaped at the top there, and it falls straight down here. I will just go back to the collar to say I went for the collar, the stand-up collar. I like a stand-up collar, and I love the effect of the Frida blouse, which is why I chose to do this particular collar rather than the stand-up collar, which is an option. So the belt, belt is what cinches you in at the waist. And I'm just going to try and do a decent belt knot here. It's not the most elegant of bows, but there we go. Oops, just pull it over a little bit. You would not believe what I've got this thing stood on. I've got it on the dog bed to lift it up so you can see it. And I've brought this down because usually my dressmaker's dummy lives upstairs. At the moment, you never know, things might change. Now, do I love the dress and would I make it again? I would make the dress again, and I love the pattern. Would I make it in a viscose sateen again? Do you know something? Yes, depending on the pattern of the viscose sateen, I may very well make the dress again in a viscose sateen, but I will be using masking tape to tape that fabric down to the work surface. I am going to make it again. I don't know which fabric I'm going to make it in again, and I think I'd like to try and make it in a shorter sleeve for the summer. I think it could be a really, really cool wear for the summer, especially with a stand-up collar like this. And I think it would be really nice if I shaped the front of the collar. Very easy, it's so easy just to shape, because you've got your collar piece here, and you'd literally just shape it around like that and cut them both at the same time. Trace it off. These things are so easy to do, and don't forget you'd actually be tracing it off with the seam allowance. So your seam allowance is still there. I'm sure a lot of you realise that. As long as you don't affect the bit at the bottom here, and you go up there, you'd be absolutely fine. I think it would look nicer with a shaped collar. I think that's one thing I would definitely do again. It would improve it to have a shaped collar rather than a straight collar. Also on the neckline here, I haven't understitched. I don't understitch. I roll, tack, iron, and I leave that top stitching in until I need it. Similarly, I did the same with the cuffs. The hem of the dress is actually hand stitched, because this fabric would show every single imperfection. So if I got my stitching in the ditch out down here, it would stand out a mile. I actually top stitched that yoke twice, and I didn't top stitch it. I think I top stitched it at the shoulders. Did I top stitch it at the shoulders? Yes, I did top stitch the shoulders to match the back of the yoke. But I know I top stitched the yoke twice because I wasn't happy with the quality of my work. I didn't consider it to be good enough, and I changed it. This fabric is unforgiving. And I think if you're making a garment like this, if you want to make it quickly and you feel confident, you could stitch in the ditch. If it was just a standard viscose, like the one I made, just a standard woven viscose that I made the Frida blouse in, if you were using a standard woven viscose, such as this Lisa Taylor fabric, which I got from Beyond the Pink Door, again, you can feel the drape in it. It's about 120 grams per square metre, square inch, what am I like? You could probably risk stitching in the ditch. But this, if you'd have slipped slightly, you'd have seen it. So changing your type of fabric will affect how you actually make the garment. So the fabric will affect your construction techniques. And it was my decision to work on this dress the way I worked on it. This is for a different blouse, but again, it would make a very nice Tilde shirt dress, but there's not enough fabric there to do that. I'm going to put a picture in of some beautiful fabric from Atelier Jupe just here, and it's the Alana dress by Atelier Jupe, and that fabric would make this dress beautifully. It's black with very large, like lily type flowers on it. If you used that fabric and made this dress, you could stitch in the ditch, because it wouldn't show if you slipped slightly. It is more forgiving. That's the point I'm trying to make. Would I make this again? Yes. Would I make it in this beautiful viscose satin? Yes, I would. If that's what you want to make your garment in, make it in that. Don't be put off by the fabric being heavy and slippery. You can work around it. The garment must work for you. And if you like the fabric and you like the pattern, you'll look stunning in the garment. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful for you. And I look forward to seeing you on my next video, which will be very soon. And if you've not yet subscribed, I'd adore you to subscribe just by clicking the link below. And I'll see you all again very soon. Take care. Bye.